Hey guys, Alan here, and welcome back to another episode of Tuesday TrackWalks. And in today's episode, Gran Turismo 7. Is it really worth the hype? Released all the way back in March 2022, Gran Turismo 7 is based off of the foundation of that in Gran Turismo Sport, and is meant to be the latest introduction to the beloved Gran Turismo franchise, a game that is meant to be an approachable and easily accessible racing arcade simulator. So why on earth am I talking about this game right now after more than a year than its initial release? Well, I can tell you with full honesty is that I just wasn't interested in the game initially. I've been playing GT Sport for the better part of 5 years, and knowing from the beginning that GT Sport was going to play sort of a beta test foundation role as a GT7, it just didn't make sense to me to pay yet another 500 Hong Kong dollars only for an expansive version of the current $500 game. Or at least I thought it would be the case. It wasn't until a few days ago when my brother brought the game that I get a chance to play the game and experience it at its full glory. And after a few days of actually dialing in and playing the game and experience it from a more objective view, I can say that it's very wrong of me to think about this game as an expansive version of GT Sport. And it has slowly but surely becoming one of the best, if not the best racing game I've ever played. Firstly, we'll start off with the good stuff by talking about the physics overhaul in this game, which has been massively improved from the one in GT Sports. The suspension damping effect has been noticeably tuned up, so now it is sharper and more direct, and it is also more sensitive to road surfaces. The tire model has been significantly improved, so now it gives more details on the feedback and also being a bit more linear in terms of grip level, rather than being a bit of a switch like in GT Sport. And perhaps the most noticeable is the curbing effect in this game, which now gives a lot more detail, and it actually affects the car's momentum depending on how you attack the curb at various speeds and angles. While all these things doesn't seem like a lot, all of these details adds up and therefore contributes to a more realistic experience overall. Now, I can't really make a fully fleshed out comment about the feedback of this game at this point because I'm only being able to play on this game with a controller at this point. But speaking from that perspective, which I have been playing on DualSense controller on my PS5, I would say that it gives pretty decent feedback for a controller, and from the vibration of the car to the road feedback, the curve feedback, you can pretty much get it from the controller itself, and the damping on the braking and accelerator is quite a nice touch. Obviously, you're still missing all the crucial feedbacks coming from the car on the steering because, well, you're playing on the controller, but I would say in terms of a controller's perspective, it is actually a rather nice game to play. And to be honest, of all the experiences that I had on an arcade simulator racing game, whatever, the controller experience is the best in this game in my opinion. But to be completely honest with you, I don't think the steering wheel experience will be anything worse than GT Sport, since I have been playing on that game on the steering wheel for the majority of its life cycle, and even though it had this flaw, I won't say that it is anything bad. So given that the fact that this game have more detail and a more refined physics engine in this game, I would say that the wheel experience is definitely something that you want to try out and something that you want to go for in this game. Secondly, it's the sheer amount of content and in-game depth that it provides. There's a lot of tracks and cars for sure, but more importantly, the game provides a lot of options for the players to approach the game differently. There's the standard races, which you can customize to your own liking and participate in. There's time trials, there's missions and in-game objectives, and of course the license campaign and multiplayer returns in this game. And aside from that, you can also customize your cars to your liking, from the aesthetics to the performance tuning, and the list essentially goes on. In a nutshell, this game pretty much provides the full package for a racing games in my opinion. And last but definitely not least, is the sense of progression and the replayability of the game, and to my eyes, GT7 has handled it quite nicely. To start with, you have the cafe as sort of an in-game objective provider, and it will give you relatively easy objectives to complete for you to learn more about the game's mechanics and just completing the games in general. And after you complete those objectives, it will give you rewards like credits, roulette tickets, or even free cars. And as you complete those objectives, you unlock more in-game content like tracks and different game modes, which they themselves will offer a different layers of challenge and different experience for the game in general. And Even after you manage to complete all the single player campaign, which there is a hell of a lot to get through, you can still hop into multiplayer, or you can get a bit more competitive by trying to hop into online sport mode to compete against the best drivers in your region, or just simply hop back into single player and enjoy more of the driving experience in general. And not to mention that they still get free content update every once in a while. And for me as a player, the sense of progression and the constant rewards combined with pretty decent gameplay on its own, this is something that I look for and will constantly keep me coming back to the game. Now obviously, as much as it is a great game, it isn't without its flaws. To start with, the in-game campaign progression can feel quite slow considering the fact that you do need to complete them in order to unlock in-game content, which I can see why it will throw some people off, as it does limit your gameplay options to a certain extent. The UI is fairly complicated and it can be quite a pain in the ass to try to navigate through at times. And the split screen experience is just incomplete in general. However, when you look at things in the big picture, I would say that these are definitely not a deal breaker by any means. So all in all, is GT7 worth the hype? Well, the game has good amount of content, great sense of progression, and a very decent gameplay. And to me personally, I think the game has found a near perfect balance between being arcadey yet being realistic. It has a very great driving experience on its own without sacrificing in-game depth or the sense of progression. So with that in mind, this game pretty much beats a lot of the SimK out there, and it is one of the, if not the best SimK out there in the racing game market. So that for me, it is worth the hype. As ever, I'm Alvin Wong, thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe, hit the bell icon if you haven't already, and I shall see you in the next episode of Tuesday TrackWalks. Cheers guys, take care, and I shall see you soon.